In a future world where overpopulation has drained the planet's resources, the UN enforces a grim solution. Every country must reduce its population by 5% each year. In the US, this is done through a brutal system where students take an annual standardized test, and those with the lowest scores are executed. The test, officially named the 10 to 241, has earned the chilling nickname the Thinning. Before moving forward, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It will help us keep bringing your favorite movie recaps. In Texas, students are cramming for the test, which begins in just 18 hours. High schooler Lena is tutoring her classmate Simon while her younger siblings play nearby. Frustrated and desperate, Simon pays Lena a hefty sum to get illegal contact lenses that will give him all the test answers. Lena warns him to destroy them immediately after the exam. Suddenly, Lena receives a call from the hospital. Her mother is trying to discharge herself against medical advice. Lena begs the doctor to stall her mom and rushes to the hospital with her siblings. By the time they arrive, her mother has already signed the paperwork to leave. The doctor pulls Lena aside and refuses her money, revealing heartbreaking news. Her mother's condition has worsened, and there's nothing more they can do for her. As the clock ticks down to the test, the governor's son, Blake, sneaks out of his mansion, telling his bodyguards he's just heading to the kitchen. Instead, he drives off to meet his girlfriend, Ellie. The mood is heavy as they grapple with the possibility that tomorrow might be their last day alive. To distract themselves, they sneak into a nearby mansion and take a swim in the pool. Later, in Blake's car, they try to make out, but Ellie is too scared to enjoy the moment, haunted by the looming test. Their time is cut short when one of Blake's bodyguards finds them and drags him back home. Blake's father, Governor Dean, scolds him harshly, reminding him that he should focus on surviving the test. There will be plenty of time for fun if he makes it through. Blake's older brother, Dean, thinks Ellie is a distraction Blake can't afford until he graduates next year. But Blake doesn't seem convinced. Still, Dean hugs him before leaving. 3 hours before the big test, black-clad guards surround the school, setting up fences, barbed wire, and cameras. They patrol every inch of the perimeter to ensure no one tries to escape. Simon arrives early, but as he's walking in, another student accidentally bumps into him, making him drop his contact lenses. He desperately searches for them, but a guard barks at him to keep moving. As the students trickle in, they share emotional goodbyes with their parents. Bags are searched and bodies are scanned to prevent any cheating. Blake approaches Lena, asking if she still has the special lenses for sale, but she tells him she's already sold the last pair. Meanwhile, a guard catches a student with invisible answers painted on his arm. Panicking, the boy bolts. For the first time ever, someone manages to get past the guards. Lena's friend, Kellen, quickly hacks into his father's account to pull up the street's security footage. He watches as the guards surround the boy, capturing him with a net. Kellen makes a copy of the footage and sends it to a reporter. Once all the students are inside, the school is put under lockdown. The students head to their assigned classrooms, where their teachers try to keep them calm. Miss Birch offers kind words, telling them there's always hope. But Mr. Glass coldly reminds them of the rules. They have 2 hours to complete the test, their eyes must stay on their tablets, and their grades will be final. The test begins, and the room falls silent as the students focus on their tablets. Many of them visibly struggle, tension thick in the air. When the time is up, the students drop their tablets, and the guards immediately start processing the results. Within minutes, the teachers receive the list of the lowest scores. Heartbreak spreads across their faces as they call out names. One by one, students with the lowest grades are dragged away by the guards. Those who resist are pulled by force, and anyone trying to run is beaten into submission. The atmosphere is suffocating, and the remaining students are left in stunned silence, realizing what's at stake. Blake, Kellen, and Lena passed the test, but Ellie failed and was taken away. The students were given a break, and during this time, Lena noticed Simon was also being taken. Blake, desperate to save Ellie, called his dad for help, but his dad, Dean, refused, saying the law applies to everyone equally. Furious, Blake lost control. He shoved people aside, pushed a guard, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and hit the guard with it. Then, he attacked another guard while yelling at Ellie to run. Ellie tried to escape, but other students blocked her path. The guards caught up to her and dragged her away, leading her to her death. Meanwhile, Blake screamed helplessly as he was restrained and dragged off. A year later, it's time for the next test, which is only 24 hours away. Sarah, overwhelmed by stress, decides she can't take any more studying. She meets with Glass, who promises her a good grade in exchange for sleeping with him. Meanwhile, Birch visits Lena and her younger siblings, who are still grieving their mother's recent death. Birch brings food and offers support, knowing the kids will face their first test this year. On her way home, Birch spots Sarah leaving Glass's car. At the governor's mansion, Blake records a video on his tablet. In the video, he says that if anyone is watching it, it means he's dead. 3 hours before the test, Lena takes her siblings to school, quizzing them along the way to make sure they're ready. Dean tries to offer Blake some encouragement before he leaves, but Blake brushes him off, telling him to save it for his speeches. As Blake heads to school, a bodyguard sees him drop an envelope into a mailbox. The guard takes it to Dean. Shortly after, the school is placed on lockdown, and all the students are seated for the test. In the kindergarten class, the teacher plays an animated propaganda video explaining why the test is necessary to save the Earth. In some countries, elderly people are killed or strict birth limits are enforced, but in the USA, the focus is on keeping smart individuals alive to make the country great again. At the school, students are handed tablets, and the test begins. Meanwhile, Dean discovers a video from Blake hidden in an envelope. In the video, Blake reveals his plan to intentionally fail the test so his father, who strongly supports the system, can witness him die because of it. Alarmed, Dean orders his bodyguards to bring Blake home, but the school is already in lockdown, and no one can leave. Frustrated, Dean sends his bodyguards away and calls Mason, the head of school security, for help. In the classroom, Blake purposely answers every question quickly and incorrectly, finishing earlier than the others. Glass, the teacher, finds Blake's behavior suspicious. Meanwhile, in a kindergarten classroom, a small child raises their hand for help, but the teacher ignores them because a guard is watching. When time runs out, all students submit their tablets. This time, Mason calculates the test results alone, rather than the usual group of guards. One by one, students are called by name. The child who asked for help is taken away, followed by Sarah, who panics and realizes Glass deceived her. Kellen and Lena's siblings pass the test, and surprisingly, so does Blake, even though he deliberately failed. Birch is devastated when Lena's name is announced as one of the students who failed, which seems impossible since she's the best in her class. Mason calls Dean, confirming he swapped the results. Shocked, Blake watches as children are taken away. Birch runs to a guard, begging him to double-check the results, but Mason assures the guards that everything is in order. Heartbroken, Birch hugs Lena goodbye and secretly slips her a key card, whispering that there's still hope. Later, the school celebrates the students who passed. During the party, Birch notices Glass flirting with another student, completely indifferent to what just happened. At the same time, Dean delivers a public speech, which is broadcast at the event. The crowd cheers as Dean boasts about his achievements, stating that hard decisions are sometimes necessary for progress. He believes the thinning isn't cruel, it's progress. Dean even announces he's running for president, leaving Blake so disgusted that he walks out of the party. Meanwhile, in a private hallway, the failed students are ordered to strip for decontamination. When they hesitate, they're hit. Lena hides the key card in her mouth to keep it safe. The students are then dressed in prison-like uniforms, handcuffed to chairs, and taken to another room. Nearby, Blake pretends to feel very sick in the corridor. When a guard checks on him, Blake attacks and knocks him out with the guard's own weapon. At the same time, Kellen logs into his father's account and sees the failed students on the security cameras. Unable to bear it, he looks away. Blake hides the unconscious guard and waits for Mason to leave the control room. Once the coast is clear, he sneaks inside but can't access the computer without a password. As the guards prepare to inject the students, Blake sabotages the building by shutting off the power through the electrical panel. The electronic handcuffs fail, and chaos erupts in the room as the students fight back against the guards. Amid the confusion, Lena escapes by using Birch's keycard to unlock the door. Mason returns to the control room, but Blake hides in the vents before he's caught. Realizing the system is down, Mason calls for Kellen's dad to fix it. Back at the party, the guards assure the guests it's just a minor power outage and escort Kellen's dad to the control room. While he works, Mason checks on the students, who have been handcuffed again. The guards do a head count and discover someone is missing. In a nearby corridor, Ellie narrowly avoids being seen by a guard by hiding in the lockers. She tries using the key card to open a door, but it's stuck. Just then, the guard finds her. Thinking quickly, Ellie uses the darkness to pose as Birch. But when the guard turns away, Ellie attacks him. Unfortunately, the guard overpowers her, knocking her to the ground and kicking her while she struggles to fight back. Suddenly, Blake appears out of nowhere and takes control of the fight, using the element of surprise to knock the guard unconscious. Afterward, Blake confesses that he intentionally failed earlier, which makes Lena suspicious about the results of everything happening. Blake then sets off the alarm to lure all the guards into the hallway, while he and Lena hide inside the air vents. Meanwhile, Mason declares the school will remain in lockdown until Lena is found, even though the kids are supposed to reunite with their parents by now. In the vents, Blake criticizes Lena for selling the lenses to desperate kids, accusing her of preying on their fear. Lena defends herself, explaining she only did it to pay for her mother's medical treatments. Blake immediately apologizes after hearing her reasoning. Lena also confesses that she used to have a crush on him. At the governor's mansion, A reporter questions Dean about the school's extended lockdown, which catches him off guard. He fakes confidence, claiming everything is under control. But after the interview, he sees a news report showing Kellen's reporter friend outside the school. She's covering the situation and interviewing worried parents about their kids' safety. Back at the school, Mason forces the teachers to prove they still have their keycards. When it's Birch's turn, Mason gets interrupted by an angry phone call from Dean, who orders him to fix the situation immediately. Meanwhile, Blake and Lena crawl through the vents when suddenly the surface gives way, and Blake falls straight into the school pool. Without hesitation, Lena jumps in, swimming quickly to save an unconscious Blake. Thankfully, she knows CPR and manages to revive him. They make their way to the lockers, where they change into dry clothes, turning their backs to each other for privacy. Lena finds another vent, and they keep moving. Back at the party, some students attempt to leave, but the guards brutally stop them. Kellen records the violence on his phone and sends the footage to the reporter outside. Finally, Lena and Blake reach the hallway near the server room, only for Lena's keycard to slip out of her pocket at the worst possible moment. The guards hear a noise, and Blake immediately covers Lena's mouth as they wait in silence for the men to pass by. Thanks to the darkness, the guards don't spot the key. Once it's clear, Blake and Lena head to the science classroom. However, as they move, the noise they make is loud enough to alert a guard. Thinking quickly, Lena uses some objects to create a magnet rod to fish for the key. Just as she lowers it, the guard arrives and starts pounding on the locked door. Blake urges Lena to escape through the vents while he stays behind to distract the guard. He tries to hide behind desks, but the guard bursts in and finds him. A fight breaks out, and soon, one of them is left unconscious on the floor. Meanwhile, in the vent, Lena waits for the guards to leave and lowers her magnet rod. She successfully grabs the key, but just as she pulls it up, a hand grabs it from the other side. Panicking, she realizes it's Blake in disguise. He knocked out the guard and took his uniform. Elsewhere, the guard from the earlier fight reports to Simon that there are 2 teenagers on the loose, and one of them used the name Birch. In another room, the teachers are still being held. Birch distracts Glass by pretending to flirt with him and steals his keycard. When Mason comes to check on her, Birch uses Glass's keycard to cover her tracks. The guards notice Glass is missing his key, detain him, and eventually allow the other teachers to leave. Mason beats Glass, demanding to know where the teenagers are. Back with Lena, she crawls through the vents to the server room and tries to access the computer. However, she's stopped by a password prompt for Mason's account. Desperate, she sends a message to Kellen for help. At that moment, Kellen's dad finishes repairing the power, and the Wi-Fi comes back online. Kellen receives Lena's message and sends her a video of Mason typing his password earlier. Lena uses the video to figure out the password and enters the system. First, she checks on her siblings and confirms they passed the test. Then she checks her own results. She scored 98% but still failed, while Blake passed with just 15%. The same happened to Ellie, who failed despite scoring 88%. Dean has been tampering with test results for a while, and things are about to unravel. During a press conference, Dean accuses Lena of killing 2 guards after failing her test. He praises the guards for working hard to keep everyone safe. Meanwhile, Kellen sends a video to his reporter friend showing guards beating up students who tried to escape. The footage is aired on national TV, exposing the guards' brutality. Lena quickly figures out that Kellen is behind this and sends him screenshots of the manipulated test results. But her plan takes a turn for the worse when Mason spots her on the security cameras and raises the alarm. Lena tries to run, but Mason and his guards corner her. She pleads that she has proof she passed the test, but they arrest her anyway. Elsewhere, Blake discovers the room where the students are held and pretends he has orders to move them. The other guards grow suspicious since they weren't informed, forcing Blake into a fight. He manages to land a few punches before the guards overpower him. At the party, Kellen receives the screenshots Lena sent and forwards them to the reporter. The reporter goes live on TV, exposing that a politician's son benefited unfairly from the rigged tests. Back at the mansion, Dean's team panics, urging him to shut everything down and release Lena. But Dean insists he has one final move. Lena, now handcuffed with the other failed students, watches as guards prepare injections for them. Mason calls Dean for permission to proceed, but Dean suddenly orders a revision of the list. The students who actually passed the exams are released, including Lena. She rushes to Blake, who is tied up, and kisses him before being dragged away again. The guards then head to the party to retrieve the students who truly failed the exams, including Blake, who is now handcuffed with the others. The tension escalates as Dean's lies start to collapse. One by one, the students are given a strange injection that knocks them out. Afterward, the school finally reopens, and the parents rush to reunite with their children. Lena hurries to find her siblings, who have been cared for by a teacher. But not every parent gets their child back. Those left empty-handed break down in tears right there. Meanwhile, Dean appears on TV again, blaming Mason for everything. He puts on a show, acting heartbroken over his son's death, but insists that no one, not even himself, is above the law. Later, a truck pulls up at an illegal tech factory. Blake, to his surprise, wakes up alive and unharmed. The injection was just a sedative. As he looks around, he realizes the other students are alive too. To their horror, they find students from previous years, now failures, working as laborers in the factory. Blake's shock deepens when he spots Ellie, very much alive. That is how the movie ends. Please subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like. It really helps the channel. Thank you for watching.